Good afternoon, and welcome to the latest webinar in our series of webinars that we have planned to introduce you to the various components of the Genero suite. Now, this recording of the webinar is a reproduction of the webinar that we presented on October 21st, 2010. We are re-recording it for you to improve the clarity of the video feedback in some of the demonstrations. In the webinar, we're going to introduce you to the basics of the Genero web client for Silverlight, a new Genero web client theme that is introduced as part of the Genero Application Server 230 package. My name is Scott Barney, and I'll be the presenter for this webinar. And when I'm not presenting webinars, I work in the 4J's training and documentation group. Assisting me was John Hoback, one of the principal system engineers out of our Dallas office. John had helped by creating the demo application that I'll be using today to show GWC for Silverlight and helped to provide the answers to questions that came up in the webinars. For these questions, we've taken them offline. We have provided or put them together in a list with the answers, and we will post them to the webinar website. So now, without further ado, let's get started. One of the first questions you may have is just what is Silverlight? And to answer this question, I'm going to start with a few bullet statements from Microsoft that talk about Silverlight and what it brings to the table. Silverlight is a powerful development platform for creating rich media applications and business applications for the web, desktop, and mobile devices. Silverlight is a free plugin powered by the .NET framework that is compatible across multiple browsers, devices, and operating systems to bring a new level of interactivity wherever the web works. And Silverlight enables web-based applications to deliver the business functionality users demand with a modern and efficient user interface. Now, these formal definitions lead me to say this. Silverlight is an environment that is based on .NET. It's a reduced version of .NET that is safe for internet applications. Anything that can take over a system or a computer has been eliminated. And to provide this reduced version of .NET, Microsoft rewrote the .NET libraries and created Silverlight. Silverlight is an open standard. Silverlight provides rich internet applications that are portable across all platforms. And once you download the Silverlight plugin, you can run a Silverlight application within any browser. Now that you know what Silverlight is, why should you care? Well, I'm going to give you 4 reasons. First, fast. Silverlight takes the Silverlight code, compiles it on the machine, and runs at assembly speed. What this means is that it's extremely fast. It's faster than P-code-based languages. It's faster than interpretive languages such as JavaScript. If you were to compare a GWC for Ajax application versus a GWC for Silverlight application, you would find that the Silverlight is faster. Silverlight can run within a browser. Once the Silverlight plugin has been downloaded, there is zero installation involved for getting the application to display on the client. Even though it is run in the browser, Silverlight comes close to a real desktop experience. This is despite the fact that it is delivering the application over the web. You will see throughout the Silverlight demo that we give today that the application renders closer to a desktop experience like a Microsoft Office application. End users are familiar with the look and feel of these types of applications, and this is probably the leading factor as to why companies are moving to have their web-based applications delivered using Silverlight. Finally, Silverlight is customizable. You can add additional Silverlight files created by third parties, or if you have the skill set, you can create these files in-house. Now, these files can provide new controls or widgets for you to use in your applications. You can also customize the look and feel by applying different themes to your applications. We're going to talk about customization and the steps involved in customization and provide you some examples of this customization in the latter half of this webinar. So to recap the main reasons why Silverlight is becoming the #1 method for delivering applications via a browser or over the web, 1 is speed, 2, the ease of deployment through the web, 3, close to a desktop experience such as Microsoft Office, and 4, it's customizable. And these are the reasons that are driving companies to Silverlight. So Genero comes from 4Js, and Silverlight comes from Microsoft. So where does the connection lie? Well, Silverlight is available for Genero applications thanks to the Silverlight theme, formerly known as GWC for Silverlight. Just as we've been delivering applications using GWC and a basic theme, or GWC and an Ajax theme, we now offer 2 additional themes, an iPhone theme and a Silverlight theme, and it is the Silverlight theme which we are covering today. So Genero and Silverlight come together as a specific theme for the Genero web client. This means that to deliver Genero applications as Silverlight applications, you will need to download and install the Genero application server version 2.30. As part of this installation and configuration, you're going to need to configure it to run with your Genero BDL installation or your FTL run. For your preferred browser, you will need to download the Silverlight plugin. If you've already been viewing Silverlight applications, it's probably already on your computer. And if it's not present, you need to ask, or you are asked to download the plugin the very first time that you need it. Once the software is in place, you will next need to create the appropriate application configuration files for the applications that you want to deliver using GWC for Silverlight. In fact, for any application you want to deliver using the GAS and GWC, you're going to have to be creating configuration files that provide the Genero Application Server, or GAS, with the information needed to configure and set the environment for your application. And this is a typical step for delivering applications using the Genero web client, regardless of what theme you want to use. So for this webinar, and I dare say for most sites, we're going to create an external application configuration file, or an XCF file, for each application that we want to deliver using the Genero web client. Now, just as a side note, it's also possible to add this information directly to the GAS configuration file or the as.xcf file instead of creating these external application configuration files. However, this isn't a recommended way, as changes to the GAS configuration file may not be instantly recognized. I just want to let you know that it is possible. That being said, let's continue. Once you've created the application configuration files, you're then going to call for the application to be delivered using this GWC for Silverlight theme by entering in the appropriate URL. Now, we've created a quick demo application for this webinar, which not only shows you how you can take a desktop application and show it using Genero, but it's also going to show you some of the features that have been recently introduced in Genero. Now, to start, we're going to look at our demo application within the GDC, or Genero Desktop Client, and show you what the application does, so you're going to be better prepared to evaluate how well it translates into a web-based application, and then more specifically, how it translates into a Silverlight application. So after we're done looking at it through the Genero Desktop Client, we're going to look at it through GWC for Ajax, which is the default theme for browser-based desktop applications, Genero applications delivered over the web. And then we're going to take it a step further and look at that same application being shown using GWC for Silverlight theme. Let me start by bringing up Genero Studio. Now inside of Genero Studio, I have my demo application workspace. I'm going to go ahead and execute my application. Now my application executes, and what you can see is it's a create order application for creating an order. I have a top menu, I have a toolbar, and then I have two tabs, a customer tab and an inventory tab. On the customer tab, in the top I have my customer information. I can use the buttons to scroll through this customer information, scroll back. I can go to the last record, I can go to the first record. Down underneath the customer information, when I have a customer selected, the purpose of this application is to build a list of products that this customer may want. So on the right-hand side, I have the list that's going to be built. On the left-hand side, I have a tree view showing me the items that are available. You'll notice the items are organized by category, and within the categories, there can be subcategories. I can expand and contract these categories by clicking on the plus sign, and I can contract them by doing the minus sign. And once I have some products displayed, I can take them and drop them off into my active list by using a variety of methods. The first, I'm going to do the drag and drop. With drag and drop, I click and hold down my mouse button. I can drag it and I can drop it into my list. In addition to drag and drop, I can do the double click. If I double click an item, it's added to my list. I can also do what's known as a multi-row select. Holding down the shift key, I can grab a group of items. I can drag and drop them into my list. Or if I hold down the control key, I can just grab various items and drag and drop them as a group into this list. As you notice, one thing when I'm building this list, I can change the quantity ordered by using the spin edit after selecting the item. I can use buttons to maybe add 5, to maybe add 10. And then using these other buttons, I can add and subtract one item at a time. Another thing is if I take an item and I want to drag it over, if it already exists, I have one quantity of this Captain Crunch. If I drag and drop it again, it's not adding it one more time. Instead, it's giving me a quantity of 2. I can highlight an item and I can delete it, and that removes it from my list. And this gives you an idea of how the tree view works, how I can drag and drop things into my list, and how the list is gathering this information together. One thing with this demo application, we just read in our data from a file. We didn't want to have to make a database connection be part of this in case we distribute this later. So as I close the application, this list I'm building for my first customer is going to go away. And if I restart the application, I'll have to rebuild this list again. But again, the purpose of this application was just to show you some functionality and to give you a tool with which to evaluate the different ways of presenting the same application across a variety of front-end clients. If I go to the inventory tab, right now it has 2 sub-tabs, a pie chart or a pie tab and a bar tab. I notice that both of these are just tables right now. When we move into Silverlight, we're going to customize it to include a third-party control where the pie chart, this table is going to turn into a pie chart. And on the bar tab, this table is going to turn into a bar chart. So you've now seen what it looks like inside of the Genero desktop client. Let me go ahead and exit this application. And what I want to do now is surface it using the Genero web client. And we're going to first look at it using the GWC for Ajax. I'm going to go into my browser, and into my browser, in order to surface it using GWC for Ajax, I need to use a URL that's going to bring forward the application. The URL that I'm selecting, it has the machine name, the port number, /WA/R/SLDemo, which is the group identifier, and /SLDemo1, which is the application configuration file. So we'll come back and look at this application, but let me go into Studio and talk about those two things. So inside of that URL, I included a group name and I included the name of an application configuration file. The group name was SLDemo, and if I go into my gas configuration file and I look for SLDemo, what you can see is I've added a group identifier. This group identifier points to a path. And inside of this path, you can see that it's showing a directory that's identifying where I'm storing my XCF, or my application configuration files. One of these was SLDemo1, and that was the last part of my URL. And inside of this SLDemo1, you can see that I've given it the name of the module to kick off, and I've told it where this module resides. And in telling it where this module resides, I said res.sldemo.dir. Up above, I created a resource, res.sldemo.dir, that actually provides the full name of that path. So a very quick and simple configuration file provides what the application, or what the Genero application server needs to know, which is the name of the executable and where it resides. I then had to go and start the gas. I started it using the standalone Genero application server. The standalone Genero application server doesn't include a web server or a gas dispatcher. And when you use a web server-based solution or a standalone gas, the end result is going to be the same in terms of how the application displays. The standalone version is provided for development, so it's to allow your developers to develop applications for the web without having to have a web server in their development environment. So I started up that gas. It was able to find the configuration details because I edited my gas configuration file, my as.xcf file, to include that group directory. And then I created an external application configuration file, or an XCF file, that identified where my application resides. So if we went and looked at this, again, here's my web-based application. you can see again it has a top menu, it has a toolbar. Inside of the toolbar, I have two tabs, a customer tab and an inventory tab. On the customer tab, I still have my customers that I can scroll through. I can go to my first or last. I still have a tree view that I can expand. I can still drag and drop and add items across. I can still add values to the items. And if I go to inventory tab, we can see that it's producing tables. And yet these tables, again, still don't display as charts because that's something we're going to add and customize within Silverlight. So how do I then display this application using Silverlight? Well, to view the application using GWC for Silverlight, all we're going to have to do is add the argument output map equal to DUA SL. So what we're feeding in is we're letting it know, I want you to use this different theme. I want you to use the Silverlight output map. Now it's displaying the application using Silverlight. And look at the results. Again, it's the same functionality, however, the look and feel is that of Silverlight, which in many ways resembles more a desktop application than it does the Ajax rendering that we just saw. So again, I can scroll through my customers. I can use my tree view to go and expand and look at the list. I can double click to add items across. I can select an item. I can drag and drop it and it increments there. I can grab a group of items. I can drag and drop them, place them in the list. Um, Let me go ahead and add some more quantity, add more quantity out there. So it's acting the same way as we were used to it acting, or that we saw it acting in the GDC, and that we saw with the GWC for Ajax. The look and feel just happens to be a little more desktop-like. If I go to my inventory tab, I still expect to see the tables because I haven't actually done the customization yet. That's going to allow these to be viewed as either a pie chart or a bar chart, but I'll be doing that soon. So now that you've seen the default application being displayed without us doing any customization, I'm going to walk you through what I call the ribbon demo. And the ribbon demo is where I'm going to apply a ribbon style widget on the top to replace the toolbar in the top menu. Now you can find or you can buy third-party Silverlight widgets to integrate into your application on top of what we provide. We provide the interface for you to plug in these third-party widgets and interface with the 4GL. What we provide you with is the interface to plug these third-party widgets in. We do not support them. So once you find a third-party Silverlight extension that you want to include, it's a simple matter to add them to your Silverlight environment. This is standard Silverlight integration, and while we give you the basic steps for adding these third-party extensions, we do expect that you will educate yourself on Silverlight basics. So that being said, it is a relatively simple matter to add these third-party components. So as part of the GWC for Silverlight tutorial that we provide with the installation of the GAS version 230, we've included a control or a widget from a third party, and this control is the infusion.silverlight.controls.ribbon control. So before I even start, there were some things that were done for us. So first, we located the relevant files. So we found the infusions.silverlight.controls.dll and the infusion.silverlight.controls.extmap.xml. They were found for us, and they were put into the fglasr/setsl/external parts directory. And it is this infusion.silverlight.controls.dll that's going to provide us with the functionality of a ribbon that we're going to be able to include in our application. However, just adding this DLL file to the external parts directory was not enough. So we also had to add the DLL to references inside of the GWC application project, and we had to rebuild the project. Now, in order to do all this, we had to use Microsoft Visual Web Developer. I've downloaded a free version known as Microsoft Visual Web Developer 210 Express. I go inside of my Genero GAS installation, inside of the template directory, inside of the set SL, and inside of the source, I found this file that's I got a .sln at the end of it. So my gwc.application.sln. When I click on it, it opens it up inside of my Visual Web Developer. I find the GWC application node. or project, I go to the references folder, and if I look inside, I can see that infusion.silverlight's control was added for me. If I had gone out and located this DLL file by my own, I would have gone and right-clicked references and added my reference, locate that file. Once I'm done, I would have rebuilt the application, and by rebuilding the application, it would have rebuilt it. It packages it all up in what's known as a ZAP file, and that ZAP file is what is then downloaded to each browser that needs to access this application. And then that DLL, which is a Silverlight DLL, it's not a Windows DLL, but that Silverlight executable then executes on the client side in the client side framework inside of that Silverlight browser plugin. So again, this Infusion.Silverlight's control has been added in for you as part of our default install. It still is a third-party component, which means as 4Js, we're going to work with you to make sure that the Genero side is working and the integration is there, but we're not going to be able to control, or we're not going to be able to support the inner workings of what that widget is actually doing. So once I've included this DLL file, I've included this Silverlight plugin or the Silverlight component, I can then go and let me look at my application files. So what I want to do is I want to get this ribbon to take the place of my toolbar and of my top menu. And the way I do that is by using styles. So inside of my 4GL code, I've gone ahead and I've created a variable called WinStyle. I have some code here that says when I'm kicking off the application, if there's a WinStyle, then I want you to pass that. If there's an argument, I want you to pass that in and populate the WinStyle variable. Otherwise, let it be default. And then when I go to open my window, I open my window with the form. My attributes, my style is going to be whatever parameter is passed in. So if there's no parameter, it's going to use a default style. If there is a parameter, it's going to take that parameter and use it to be the style name. Now, where am I going to pass in this parameter? You can pass in this parameter inside of your XCF file. So inside of my sldemo2.xcf, you'll remember previously I just had a module name and I had a path. I've now extended and I've added a couple things to it. I've added a parameter. It's going to pass in a parameter known as ribbon window. Now I have a style name that's going to be applied to my window. In addition, I've added an output section. That output section is including a new snippet, and that snippet is a ribbon. And so my ribbon, let me open it in code editor. And so my ribbon is a XAML file, and this XAML file is saying if the style passed in ribbon enabled is equal to yes, then I want you to go ahead and use this XAML file. Now, for those of you used to coming from the GWC for Ajax, you'll remember our templates and snippets inside of Ajax were being written using XHTML. And here inside of Silverlight, however, these files are written using XAML or XAML. Now, XAML is the language Microsoft provides for the design of Silverlight widgets and screens. So if you're going to change the logic of how a widget displays, you need to update the XAML snippet file, and then you end up using the .NET, as we showed you, to create Silverlight DLLs to run on the local client. So one of the things you're going to be working with is working with our template language and working with this XAML to provide the template that is going to be used to display my component. So inside of my SLDemo2, I'm passing in a parameter name. I'm also identifying a snippet that's going to be able to display a ribbon when I need to display a ribbon. Inside of my default.4st, which is my style file, here's where it's saying, okay, if the window has a style of ribbon window, that I want you to set ribbon enable equal to yes, and I want you to use as the logo in the ribbon this logo.png, which is a file that I just happen to put in my bin directory, so I have an image that's going to be displayed when the application kicks off. So now if we go and we look inside of my SLDemo2, it brings up my Silverlight application. Again, my create orders application. You'll notice when it was SLDemo1, same application, but it has a toolbar and it has a top menu. When I use SLDemo2 configuration file, it's passing in that parameter with the window style. And now my toolbar and my top menu have been translated into ribbons. So my toolbar ribbon, I've included the code and I updated my XAML file so that I have separators between the various categories. The top menu, because the top menu is made of 4 menu items, was naturally designed to go ahead and break them into a file section, a navigate section, an edit section, and a help section. So here's just a quick example of using the third-party plugin of infusion.silverlight.controls.ribbon to go ahead and take my typical toolbar display and my typical top menu display, and instead to display them up here as ribbons. So for the next part of the demonstration, we're going to go ahead and add charting components or charting controls to our application. So right now, if we went to that inventory tab, one of the things about that inventory tab is the pie chart and the bar chart are right now just being displayed as tables. So what do we need to do to instead display them using a pie chart and using a bar chart? And so the idea is, let's say you found a component we wish to add. We want to add a pie chart and bar chart. We've done our web search, we've come across the component, and we want to add it. Now, John did this research for me, and he found this SL Visifier that's going to allow us to add charts. So he discovered this third party, Silverlight DLL. He located the SL Visifier DLL files, and 2 of them were provided. He added the DLL files to the references within the GWC application, and we rebuilt the project. So again, if I go into my Microsoft Visual Web Developer, inside of my references, I said 2 DLLs were added. There was an fj.core DLL that needed to be added, and there was an slvisifier.charts DLL that needed to be added. Once I did my reference, I added reference, located them, and added them in. I went and I rebuilt my GWC application, and it rebuilt it, and then that was in the package that's downloaded by my browser when I need to run this Genero app. Now that these have been added, am I done yet? No, there's a couple more things I need to do. I need to let the pie table and I need to let that bar table know that they need to use these charts. So how I did this, well, a table is being displayed using a table snippet. So I created a copy of the table snippet XAML file. I then updated that XAML copy with some XAML that was provided by SL Visifier. So they gave us examples of what we needed to do to integrate their component or their control into our application so that our data was being passed properly and displayed inside of their control. And then once I've updated these snippet files so that I had a pie chart snippet and I had a bar chart snippet, I then needed to update my XCF file so that it pointed to these new snippet files so my application could find and use these new snippet files. So let's just take a look at this from the standpoint of Genero Studio. Now, as I said, I went ahead and I created copies of my table.xaml. I ended up creating a table pie.xaml and I ended up creating a table bar.xaml. I just wanted to take you down and show you quickly the differences. So here's the table pie, which was included as part of our install. And it's the XAML file that the snippet is allowed to display. And I just wanted to kind of scroll down a little bit and so you can see that this table was designed to handle a lot of things. Well, if it's a menu item, if it's a menu separator, if it's an edit box, a data edit box, a spin edit, a text edit, a slider, a label, etc., etc. Do we need all that in the pie chart? No, we don't. So what happened to those lines of code? They were just deleted. So what was added in terms of this pie chart? Here we can see where the XAML changed. And in the pie chart, let's see if I can move this over. Good. So in the pie chart, it's saying, okay, I'm going to get a chart series. So it's taking that table and turning it into a chart series. And as stuff gets passed across, and it's passed across by this repeating of a loop through the cells, then I'm going to need to pass it off into my pie chart. There were 3 columns in my table. We can see them passing in with an index 0, 1, and 2. It's using those values and passing the values in to be displayed on my pie chart. If I went and looked at the bar chart, I created a table bar.xaml again. Let me show the differences. And with this bar chart, same type of thing. Bar chart only had 2 columns because it only needed 2 columns. So I pass in the 2 values from column 1 and column 2. And when I pass them in, because I'll be using this bar chart instead of the table snippet, it's going to then display it as a bar chart. So how does my application know? Let me go back to my application here. How does it know that it needs to take this pie chart or this table and make it a pie chart, and take this bar tab and make this table a bar chart? Well, if I go back into Studio and I look at the per file, inside the per file, when I get down to where these tables are being displayed, you can see once again, I'm passing in styles. So for this table pie chart, if a style table pie exists, it's going to use that. Otherwise, it uses the table.xaml. Likewise, for my table bar chart, if the style table bar exists, it's going to use that. So let's go and see where these styles are being applied. If I go into my SL demo, here we have them. We're saying, okay, I'm still passing in my parameter of ribbon window. I'm going down into my output. This time, if the ID is duas.sl, in other words, if it's a Silverlight theme, I want to use the ribbon. I also, if it's a table with the style of table pie, I want you to use that tablepie.xaml file. If it's a table and the style is bar, then I want you to use for that snippet the tablebar.xaml file. So inside of the application configuration file, we've identified how we want these tables to appear if the different styles are applied. So having looked at all that, let's go ahead, go back into our application. And this time we're going to open it. We're going to use the new configuration file of SLDemo3. It brings up my application. I need to populate my table so it has something to chart. Let me go ahead and expand down into serials. Let me grab a bunch. Let me drag and drop them over. And let me change the quantity of a couple of these so that we have some variety. And now that I have some variety up there, if I go to my inventory, now we can see instead of a table, because I've included that control, it's giving me a nice pie chart. You can see as I move my mouse, my cursor allows me to display values, and this is what's written into that pie chart or that bar chart widget. If I look at my pie chart, it's drawing that table, is taking that table and is drawing it as a pie chart. And part of the functionality of this pie chart in my web app, as you can see, that allows me to expand and take out different slices by clicking on them. And as I hover over a slice, it's going to give me information about what that slice in that pie chart contains. So that's a pretty neat widget. Those were free controls that were given by that SL Visifier that John found by going out and looking for third-party controls that we could include. He knew he wanted a charting control, and he was able to go out there and find one via the web. For the last topic of discussion, I'm going to talk about adding a theme from the Silverlight Toolkit. Now, I've been told that the colors just don't display well through the web conferencing, so there's no effectable you over here as though, but I still wanted to take you through the process and theory of applying a theme. And with the version of 2.30 I'm using, which was the EAP, the Early Access Program version 3, the pre-release or the beta, these steps are what I'm going to walk through now. However, when the product is out, and by the time you're viewing this, there will be a Genero 2.30 for you to download. Realize that these steps for the theme application may be tweaked slightly, and I would refer you to the documentation to find out more. So in order to apply a theme, I'm going to download Silverlight Toolkit themes from the CodePlex website. So let me go to the CodePlex website. And what we're talking about, the themes here, this Microsoft Silverlight Toolkit theme is something that you will have downloaded if you're doing any sort of customization. We have that inside of our installation documentation, our configuration section. We recommend that you download this toolkit. But inside of the toolkit, there are Silverlight themes. And the purpose of these themes is so that you can go and basically apply a different look and feel. So again, I wish I could show you this over the web conferencing, but it just doesn't seem to display via the live meeting web viewer. But what it allows you to do is to go and to apply a different look and feel based upon a theme that you're going to be passing in. So there's a variety of themes here, and how do we get these themes to actually be applied? Well, you're going to go and locate the theme XAML file. You're going to copy that theme XAML file so that it's local. You're going to add to a themes component in your GWC application project. You're going to set the build action for this theme to resource. You'll be adding some classes to references, and you rebuild the GWC application. So if I go and look inside GWC application, one folder we haven't worked with yet is this themes folder. And inside of the themes folder, we added a theme, for example, a bubble cream theme.xaml file that we got from that Silverlight Toolkit website. I added it in, the build action, the default was paid, so I needed to change it so that it said resource. I also then needed to go into my references section, and there's a few references that you have to add. Some of these system Windows control data, system Windows control theming, and all of these you're going to find listed in the documentation telling you what you need to add into these references in order to use one of these Silverlight themes. When you're done with it, you rebuild your GWC application as you always do when you change anything inside using Microsoft Visual Web Editor. And then we needed to edit the main.xaml to apply this theme. So inside of my Genero Studio, let me go to my graphical differentiator, and we had a main file. So let me find my main as it's installed, my main.xaml template, and then my modification of main.xaml. And if I show the differences here, what you're basically going to see, and the purple is where we added theming. So here it added a theming. The namespace is system Windows control theming, etc. Down underneath, we had to pass in the fact that we're looking for a bubble cream theme. And here you can see it's telling us what namespace to find that in. And then around the grid itself, I'm saying for this grid, I want you to use the bubble cream theme, and I pass in those values. And at the end of the grid, I end my theme. So that's just basically how you would apply a theme. And if you would be able to see the colors through this webinar, you'd be able to see that the colors around this would have been changed to represent, for example, my bubble cream, and it would have made it a gray. So again, I apologize for not being able to show you this through our web conferencing software. So again, it's my understanding that these exact steps are going to change a bit when 230 is fully released, but it should follow a similar pattern. And the exact steps are going to be detailed in the documentation that's included for the GAS. So I'd ask you to refer to these steps when applying a theme yourself. So that concludes what I wanted to talk to you about the Silverlight. So what are the next steps that we want? For the next steps, 2.30 will be released by the time you're viewing this. So you need to review your GAS documentation. There's going to be a help topic on the Silverlight theme in general. There's going to be a tutorial on Silverlight that you can follow. And there's a page of there's going to be some Silverlight how-tos, like how to apply a Silverlight theme is under a section called how-tos. So again, I would open up my GAS documentation and review and read the topics that are specific to Silverlight. I also would say examine the demos page and see some Silverlight examples. So if you go to the demos page, which is part of the GAS installation, you're going to see we have our default demos. We have our Ajax customization tutorial. We also have a Silverlight customization tutorial. And so you can execute these to run applications and see how they're viewed using Silverlight. So here's that card application, but it's using Silverlight. And again, you notice that the output map is equal to DUA_SL. If I go through, I could see it at the various stages of these customization, and that matches the tutorial that we provide you inside of the documentation. This also means that there's some sample files included inside of those demo directories that you can go and look at to see what customization was added to their ribbon snippet or to any of the information that they've included. So at the end of the webinar, again, I'm re-recording this now so we have a better visual quality for you, but at the end of the original delivery of this webinar, we did open the floor up to questions. Some of the questions were asked and we've compiled those and we're including them as a download link in a PDF file from our website. So if those questions aren't there today, I would look back shortly. They should be up within a day or two of me posting this video. And thank you for taking the time to look at GWC for Silverlight, and we hope you download it, experience it, and enjoy using it. Thank you again. If you have any further comments or questions, you can contact John Hobach at jhobach at 4js.com. Thank you.